Friends of the media, good afternoon. Today's briefing is to report to you the work of the Legislative Council meetings in this session. After my briefing, I will take your questions. In the 2017 to 2018 session, LegCo held a total of 42 meetings. The total meeting hours were about 520 hours. The 42 meetings included 4 chief executives' question and answer sessions and 7 meetings for CE's question time, which is a new arrangement in this session and conducted in a short question, short answer format. At those 11 meetings, the chief executive replied to a total of 139 questions asked by members. At LegCo meetings in this session, the number of quorum calls made by members totaled 222, taking up more than 39 hours. 2 council meetings were adjourned due to the lack of a quorum, resulting in the loss of about 15 hours in meeting time. Members asked a total of 150 oral questions and 719 supplementary questions to the oral questions. Another 499 questions seeking written replies by the government were asked by members. In this session, the government introduced 23 bills. Meanwhile, the Council passed 27 bills, which is doubled the 12 bills passed in the last session. Of the 27 bills, 16 were passed with an amendment and 11 were passed without amendment. These included the Appropriation Bill 2018, which members spent the longest time to consider. Some controversial bills were also passed, including the Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link Co-location Bill and the Stamp Duty Amendments Bill 2017. Members submitted a total of 357 amendments to 9 government bills, of which 113 were admitted and 1 was passed. 1 member's bill was introduced and passed without amendment. In this session, the administration tabled a total of 160 items of substitute legislation subject to the negative vetting procedure, of which 147 were passed without amendment. The scrutiny of the remaining 13 items will continue in the next session. A total of 15 motions were moved by the administration to approve or amend subsidiary legislation subject to the positive vetting procedure, and these were all passed. In addition, the administration moved 1 government motion, that is, the motion on taking forward the follow-up tasks of the co-location arrangement at the West Kowloon Station for Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link, and it was passed. Besides, the administration moved 1 motion relating to the appointment of judges to the Hong Kong Court of Final Appeal, and it was passed. In this session, members moved 10 motions to amend the rules of procedure, of which 2 were passed. 3 motions to censure members for misbehavior or breach of oath under the rules of procedure Rule 49B(1)(a), including 1 motion to censure Dr. Chang Chung-tai which was referred to an investigation committee. The committee has completed its work and submitted its report to LegCo. The debate on the motion had been resumed and completed, and at the end the motion was negatived. There's also one motion to censure Dr. Junius Ho, which was not referred to an investigation committee as the motion moved under ROP 49B(2)A was passed. And the third motion is one to censure Mr. Hui Chi-feng, which was referred to an investigation committee, and the investigation work is in progress. 3 motions seeking to invoke the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance, Cap 382, to confer powers on the Council, and they were all negatived. And there are also 8 motions to summon witnesses to attend before the Council to testify and to produce evidence under Articles 73(5) and 70(10) of the Basic Law, of which 7 were negatived and 1 lapsed, as the Council had not completed the motion debate. In this session, members debated a total of 16 members' motions not intended to have legislative effect. Among them, 5 were passed without amendment, and 6 with amendments, while 5 were negatived. Another 2 motions will be debated in the next session given the end of this session. In addition, 2 adjournment motions were moved under ROP 16(4). A total of 3 petitions were presented to the Council under ROP 20(1), of which 2 stood referred to select committees. The Council, on one occasion, granted special leave under Section 7 of Cap 382 and ROP 90 to give evidence of Council proceedings. The President issued a total of 41 written rulings and letters, of which 12 were on urgent questions, 6 on amendments to bills, 3 on resolutions relating to subsidiary legislation, 17 on motions or adjournment motions, and 3 on other matters. That is the end of my report. Good afternoon, President. I'm from the Commercial Radio, Chen Yifei. This year, there are relatively more bills passed this year. What is the reason? Has it to do with the improvement of the executive legislature relations or amendments to the committee rules of procedure? Yesterday, the motion moved by the non-establishment camp on vote of no confidence in you was negative. So what is your response to the accusations made by the non-establishment camp? Some members considered that you were emotional in presiding, in chairing meetings, and also you shouldn't limit members' chance to speak during the second reading debate. Please allow me a chance to answer your questions, because it would take me a while to answer your questions. Let me take your second question first. Of course, I did not chair the meeting on the motion debate yesterday, but I've listened attentively to the debate. I respect the views expressed by each and every members. For the views expressed and the criticisms made, I would remind myself to do better in future. On the normal operation of the Council, it has to be concerted effort of all members. They all need to cooperate. We can't just rely on the President alone to do it. And now, Mr. Xiu could lead Western music band and a Chinese band, and he could still play such nice music. So I that cost me to think about it, the concert just now. But of course, in LegCo, we know there are different political parties, but we are all working to serve the people of Hong Kong. I hope that in the next session, there will be more cooperation and better understanding, so we could play a good piece of music for the people of Hong Kong. And I'm sure that is what the public would like to see. In this session, many bills were passed. Of course, improvements in the relationship between the executive and the legislature is key reason. You know that since the chief executive assumed office, she's done a lot, and she's directed heads of bureau to lobby members. She also engaged in active communication with members. And then she has also taken on board views expressed by different political parties, and she's accepted our suggestion, and that's why there are the 7 additional short question, short answer, question time sessions. Now, in fact, the chief executive said yesterday she thought that there's improvement in the executive legislature relations, and I would like to see that continue. So as long as members are united in working for the people of Hong Kong, so however challenging a bill may be, I'm sure it can be dealt with ease at LegCo. I'm from RTHK, Lee Tai Wei. Now, your relationship with the Democratic camp seems to be worse than that compared to that for the previous 2 presidents. Yesterday, the Democratic camp leveled a lot of criticisms at you. They expressed much dissatisfaction with you. So how are you going to deal with that? Because there are 2 more years to come in the term, in the remainder of the term. How are you going to break the ice? How are you going to foster a better working relationship with the Democratic camp? Well, inside and outside the council, there are 2 different worlds. You know, just now at the concert you saw, the Democrats and I were chatting. In fact, we do chat all the time, just at in the chamber. They may express different viewpoints, and we could appreciate that. But of course, I heard what members said yesterday. I will see how I can do better. I hope there will be more communication. And I hope there will be understanding too. Now, for me to be the president is straightforward in the sense that I just follow the rules of procedure and the basic law in conducting business. For everything I do, actually, the secretary would first give me many examples of past presidents before I decide what to do. So what I can do, what I can't do, they will give me all the past informations, and I just hold on to these 2 documents. It's not that just because it's a pro-establishment camp I'll do things differently or whatever. Because for every decision I make, I know it could be subject to judicial challenge. That's why I must remain neutral in making a decision. But of course, some members may not be happy with some of my decisions, and I can appreciate that. Well, the Pan-Democrats may be very unhappy. In fact, the pro-establishment may also be very unhappy about some of my decisions, but I just have to make decisions in my capacity as the president of the council. But of course, if they have questions, we could sit down together and I can explain the reasons to them. But of course, after I've made the explanation and what members choose to do in front of the camera, well, it's fine. It's up to them. As the president, you know, I am a punchback. Obviously, that's the case. But it's fine for people just to express their political stance because we play different roles. But what is important is that we all try to serve the people of Hong Kong.
Ming Pao, Daily News. You just said that you have listened to the member views. So what kind of views have you heard, and which area you need to improve on over the past year? Besides for the co-location bill, that you think that the root procedures have enhanced your powers. So looking back, do you think that these comments are inflammatory, and do you still think that the RP is enhanced your powers? For anything I said, I will be very careful and know that it will be subject to judicial challenges. What I said is based on the Court of Final Appeal verdict. So if you understand, Hong Kong is a common law jurisdiction, and the precedent of the Court of Final Appeal is final. So I hope that you cannot understand that it's not like I come to the office this morning and I'll make decisions arbitrarily. Just now I said, behind me I have a team of professionals in the Secretariat. I will be restrained by them, not allow me to do this or do that. So it's not like will ride slipshod over them. For every decision I made, that somebody will be happy or somebody will be unhappy, and I will continue to stay loyal to the RP and the basic law and the court ruling in dealing with all the bills and other businesses. Of course, I heard the views from members. Of course, some of them are of critical nature, and there was some supportive as well. So for any shortcomings, I will rectify them. But still, at the end, I have to be adhere to the RRP and the basic law. So, well, if you heard from yesterday, for any criticisms, I will reflect carefully on them.
So when she took office last year, Mrs. Carrie Lam said she wanted to improve relationships with the members of the Legislative Council. Do you think she's managed to do that? And in relation to that, the non-establishment camp, seeing that they raised a motion of no confidence against you last month, how do you see your relationship with them?
I think the chief executive, at least for her first year, did achieve, improving relationship with all camps in LegCo. She's the one having his policy address, vote of thanks passed. I think that was the first time for the past 8 years, 7 or 8 years. Okay, that is something to show. If you remember when she started coming for the question time, the pandemic would sit down or even shout slogans. For the past few meetings, when she came, everybody or almost everybody stood up. Okay, that is mutual respect, and I think at least she earned back that respect. So the relationship does exist between her and also the pandemic, which as LegCo President, extremely glad to see. Obviously, the vote of no confidence been debated and voted down. So it also showed that their members support my way of ruling and the way of treating the bill at that time. But obviously, as I mentioned, there's always room to improve. And we just have to look forward to find a better way for me and all camps to work together for the betterment of Hong Kong and for the people of Hong Kong.
主席你好，有線
Cable TV. Just now you said that you will not ride slipshod when conducting meetings. However, when dealing with the co-location bill, you restrict the member from speaking rather rough or barbaric. So is there any room for improvement on how you chair the meetings? And at the no confidence motion debate, a lot of members have criticized and you claim that you will listen for room for improvement. So which of the aspects you think deserve improvement? And now that 26 members have requested, asked you to resign from the directorship of 3 listed companies. Would you consider a conflict of interest? Would you consider quitting the non-executive directorships? If not, then how will you ensure that there will be no conflict of interest when you chair the meetings? First thing, on handling the conflict of interest, the LegCo have effective procedures. And we have our rules of procedure Article 83, 83B, A, and the LegCo President in presiding meetings in allow the motion submitted. We have to adhere to the basic law and the rules of procedures. So not and not all the powers invested in the LegCo President, and based on past practice and among other things, and I still have a professional team at LegCo that will make sure that if there are potential conflict interests, that they will remind me. For the past 2 years, and for the yesterday there seems to give a appearance of conflict of interest. And for the motion of no conflict against me, there was a president that would preside over the meeting himself who was accused of the same thing. And the former president had experienced that. And however, the motion did not get to be debated due to filibustering, and however, she would appoint the chairman of the House Committee to preside the meeting on his behalf. So the Secretariat will lay out all the materials. So an advisor you can do either way. So you have to decide yourself. Well, I will let Starlee to chair the meeting instead. So that will be the one most appealing of conflict of interest. There's not much interest at stake. I could have chaired the meeting myself. So in order for a composed handling of the motion, that will be handled by the Madam Deputy. So for all the measures dealing with conflict of interest, they're all in place. So if the members regarded that the directorship of listed companies considered as problematic, so he could go to the Rules and Procedures Committee on how it should be amended to deal with it. If it were received that or failed to report a conflict of interest, he would go to the members' ethics committee to make a complaint. Just because the 26 members dislike you, and you resigned in the request, so it's not more about the person. There should have been a comprehensive mechanism, which is more appropriate. I forgot your first question already. For my style, like Jasper Cheng said, you just can't rely on the president himself for the smooth meeting proceeding. You need the other members to work with you. When a lot of members not refusing to adhere to the rules and procedures, and how you deal with that, it would be difficult. So I suppose both sides can do better. I hope that in this coming year there will be more communication, and to maintain the council conduct. As you can see from this January, before the co-location or maybe after co-location, things have been going quite smooth. Of course, for such kind of controversy, how should we deal with that? I'm willing to communicate with all camps.
President, I'm from the Economic Journal, Joshua. 2 questions. One, on the non-executive directorships. Now, members are concerned whether there should be the perception of neutrality for the presidency there may not be actually real conflict of interest, but what about perception? Can you consider it? Second question is on relations with the Central People's Government. Now, this year you invited the Director, Commissioner Wang Jimin to the Council, and he said he would like to invite all members to have a gathering or meet up at the Western office. So would there be such a function? And also, would you be leading members to another duty visit on the mainland? Well, I'm glad you asked the question. You're from the Economic Journal. You know very well about financial matters. But what exactly is the role of non-executive directors? They are to help the small shareholders to monitor the management. So the NEDs are not involved in the day-to-day business of the companies. In fact, as NEDs, we are supervised by the Securities and Futures Commission, so it's totally transparent. Well, I think the question is best to have come from you, the Economic Journal, because others may not understand it, but you know, from the Economic Journal, you know very well what the financial arrangements are, or the financial matters are. Now, about inviting Mr. Wang Jimin to the council, I've talked to the Democrats. They are willing to do that. So I will talk to them about inviting him. But there's been good communication. Of course, we need to look at the circumstances too. Now, for Democrats, visiting the mainland, well, it's worked well. At least on innovation and technology, they were able to form certain views after the visit. Now, if members are willing, I'll be happy to lead a delegation if we could identify a suitable spot, destination. Now, the CE suggested Sichuan, but perhaps Sichuan may not be so suitable. Well, maybe we can go to the Jiangxi River Delta, so for comparison. Well, if the pro-establishment camp and the pan-democratic camp members are willing to go on a study visit, I'm happy to arrange it. Now, maybe some have suggested conducting visits to other places, maybe to ASEAN, or some have just been to France and Belgium. They think the visit was good, so we should go too. Because the chairman of the liaison group of the French Parliament speaks Cantonese. He's a Chinese living in Paris. I met him several months ago when he came to Hong Kong. So we could have such visits that's less formal in a way, and I'm happy to do it.
Thank you. You mentioned a few things about the criticism that you faced, that you will try to improve, but can you name one thing that you think you must improve going forward? And the follow-up would be, there will be accusations of you being biased towards the government when chairing meetings. Like there would be lawmakers saying that you don't chair in an impartial manner, that you'll be rushing debates or stopping lawmakers from speaking when they are supposedly allowed to for the rules of procedure. How do you, in face of that accusation, how can you improve going forward?
I think as the president of Legislative Council, no matter how I chair the meeting, there's always accusation that I'm being unfair and biased. And it's not coming from a single camp, I think. But the only way I can chair the meeting and discharge my duty as LegCo President is to follow the basic law, the ROP, and to treat it the fair manner. If you remember, Jae Ming-sun did on the PNP 2 or 3 weeks ago. Suddenly, he mentioned that I hope the statutory committee would do certain things. Okay, I stopped him and mentioned that, well, this is a PNP. Your wish about another committee is something else. So I'm not only, stopping, it seems to be, I always stop pandemic. I just give you an example. Now, to chair the meeting, anybody who's deviate from the subject matter, I have the duty to tell him that you deviate. Would you like to, please come back to the debate or the motion? So that is something that obviously, when you are not agreeing with me, then you accuse me of being unfair. But, why should I be biased? Now, obviously, with some of the bills or that government need, there's a time frame that it need to be passed, then I have to do it accordingly. Obviously, there was accusation that, I rushed the co-location bill. But if you look at, and I got figures that after the co-location bill, this 4 weeks, we achieved a lot. Okay? And therefore, we don't have a big backlog. Okay? We have passed 5 government bills. 7, we gone through 7 positive vetting. 6 passed and 1 did not. We have go through 8 negative vetting. We have 3 P&P, okay? And we have 7 motion by members, including 1 16 bracket 4. So this is something that, as president, I have to get the time right. Our normal meeting is about 30 meetings in the whole session, of which about 4 or 5 being used for the budget. There's about 2 being used by the policy address. So when you take them off, we only left with 20 meetings to treat all the bills. So I think time-wise, I have to find time to go through all the bills. So you just have to go through, my report and see that, whether you like it or not, we have achieved a lot this year. And if you remember, the first 3 months of the session was, again, in chaos. So we did achieve it a lot, during the 5 months after that.
Sorry, first question. What was the one thing you must improve on?
Well, I think, the closer working relationship with the pandemics and also the pro-government camp may be the one thing that, I need to work harder on.
RTHK. So all along you explained that you've been upholding the rules of procedure and the basic law, and yet the pandemics there still made a considerable number. So they describe it as black history or describe it as an on fire empire. So how we respond in the future? Second question, on the details of the putting a cap on the debate time. Well, in the future, will you undertake that you will not apply that again? Otherwise, do you feel that for the bills the government want to pass, that with the president's cap on debate time, they will be definitely passed within a certain time? As for the rules and procedures and or the whole committee stage and whether the members will be allowed after to be ejected, when there are questions about that, and how do you resolve the conflict with pandemics? Otherwise, there will be another no conflict motion against you. So we have to communicate and we have to refer to the same rules and procedures. as you can see from yesterday, a lot of members has said that I have the appropriate application of my authority. If you listen to Martin Liao, he has been right that my powers were conferred by the basic law, even though the basic law only said that we have the power to preside over the meetings. And thanks to Mr. Leung Hong for suing Jasper Chang, so there come a CFA precedent codifying appeal ruling. And we understand in the Hong Kong law we have the basic law, but to be backed out by a precedence and for ruling for this codifying appeal. When the pandemics choose not to look at the rulings of the CFA, there's nothing I can do. However, I must follow by the ruling of the Court of Final Appeal. And you just can't ignore the most important ruling, then I'll be accused of blowing the black whistle. So if you don't even look at the rules, there's nothing I can do. I hope that especially the pandemics have a lot of professionals and legal professionals in the field, and they can tell you who's right. If I'm indeed being blowing the black whistle, I'll be ready to be subject to a judicial review. So that we all have strong rationale behind this. If you don't look at the rationale and the reasoning, there's nothing I can do. That my reasoning and justifications not only we look at it, we also have our legal team in LegCo, and as well as the Secretariat. So what we've been doing must be according to the rules, procedures, and basic law, and so on. As for ejecting members and not allowing them to return, the rules and procedures hasn't been amended. That who having disorderly conduct and being evicted by President will not be allowed for the rest of the meeting. And for every week, there's only one meeting, unless the Rules Procedures Committee have discussed and come with different decisions, then I'll continue to uphold the existing provisions. So we have to refer to the same book instead of arguing ceaselessly. So my ruling must be based on the books. For the written ruling and the oral decision for an ejected members due to the collocation bill by not refusing to return, you seem to be following past standard practice. So for the one meeting concept, after the amendment of the RP, when at the committee of the whole council stage, would this still count as a new meeting? Now that you amended the rule procedure, so you claimed it according to past standard practice. That's before the amendment of the RP. So in future, what is your basis rule on, and what were your principles include? And on the putting a cap on the debate time, will that become a regular thing in future? So there will be the national anthem bill coming. So will drawing a line become de rigueur in future? So the rule of procedures is here, and we have to uphold it, and we have to look clearly at each provision. And just now, as said, that's it is how it is set up in the rules procedures that we must follow. And some part of the RP have been amended, while others did not. On putting a cap on debate time, the ruling have been set out clearly. In it is claimed is an urgent matter that led me to arrive at this decision. And for any future bills, or if any circumstances propel me to do so, I believe that we'd have to look at it on a bill-by-bill basis. Right now, I can't predict whether I will or not. If you look at my rulings, my justification and so on have been laid out clearly. So in future, I will look at the need of the bill and where the circumstances require so. Apple Daily. And, out of 100, how would you rate your performance, and provide a reason why? I'm not mouse, therefore I will not rate myself. I believe that you all would come to your own conclusion. You claim that you're really good based on past precedents and decision. However, would consider not use your power to the full extent, especially you want to improve your relationship with the pandas. When chairing the meetings, when imposing a cap on debate time, that you would have more comprehensive consideration. Well, for every decision, there's always comprehensive consideration, and there has been communication. The whether we can improve it, definitely so. Well, when we see things differently, if I put a cap, they will object to it. If I cap it as 36 hours, well, while they don't they object to that, it's not like they will come to a counter offer of 40-something hours and so on. So if we were to communicate, at least we have to be on the same page. We're glad to communicate with different camps on the same page for the smooth proceeding of the council. Relying on the president alone, we cannot conduct smooth business at LegCo. We require all LegCo members to cooperate. I hope that in the coming year, all of us can improve. That was the benefit of the Hong Kong society. Thank you all. Are you satisfied with you?